I'm Al McFarlane. Good afternoon. Welcome to the Monday edition of Conversations with Al McFarlane. On Mondays, we engage our partners in community, notably the Hawthorne neighborhood and often Jordan and Central, Powderhorn, and Corcoran neighborhoods to talk about things that are important in the community, in the neighborhood. We're streaming the program live to YouTube. Later today, it'll also post, or perhaps during the show, be posting to Facebook at the Insight News page. Later today, we capture and send this conversation out with the Insight Daily newsletter, and we use this content for news stories in Insight News. So our mission is to create a place where we connect every day and discuss things that are important to our families, to our neighborhoods, to our community, and to the world. And we want to elevate the work of partners, of institutions, of neighborhood organizations, so that we keep each other informed, supported, and capable to navigate the particularly troubling times caused by both the COVID-19 pandemic and what others are calling the pandemic of 1619 or of George Floyd. So a lot of things affecting our community, but COVID-19 is top of mind at the moment. And Serve Minnesota is an organization that is looking at how we help learners and people stay connected and keep learning all the time, but particularly during these challenging times. So I'm pleased to have a dear friend and leader in community, Donna Svensson, who is the executive director. Donna, is that the right?
Uh, no,
So,
I'm a strategic outreach director.
There we go. Okay, thank you. Yeah, strategic outreach director of Serve Minnesota. Serve Minnesota is the Minnesota configuration of AmeriCorps, and I'll have you explain that. And along with Donna is Dean Kephart, who's vice president for Insight and Change at Serve Minnesota as well. So we're going to focus on that. Diana is here from Hawthorne neighborhood. Andrew Bornhoff is here, our friend and colleague. Ethropic Burnett is here. Others may be joining, but I want to begin by welcoming you, Donna and Dean, and ask you, Donna, to talk about the issue of and the work of Serve Minnesota. And you've got a deck. Feel free to share that when you're ready, so people who are listening can watch it.
Sure. Well, thank you, Al, and everybody. We're just really thankful to be part of this conversation and talk a little bit about what we do. But so I'm Donna Svensson, and I'll introduce my colleague, Dean.
Yes. Good afternoon, Dean Kephart. Really pleased and happy to be with you this afternoon.
Yeah. So we, our work is all about serving community through AmeriCorps service. And then most folks are probably familiar with. But we, especially during these challenging days that we're all experiencing, we have some programs and ways in particular that we think that we are able to uniquely help the community as we kind of all muddle through these challenging times. So we wanted to talk and highlight a couple of those opportunities that we offer. But like I said, Serve Minnesota, let me just share the deck here if you'll bear with me for a minute. All right, so can you see the screen?
Mm-hmm. Yep, perfect.
All right, excellent, wonderful. So we are essentially AmeriCorps for the state of Minnesota. A lot of our work is here in the Twin Cities, of course. We have over 2,000 people who are doing community service each year, and they're at nonprofits or schools, public agencies, and they're working either part-time or full-time, and they earn a stipend and other benefits. We span about 17 programs. We're working in the environmental field. We're partnering with folks to help low-income adults and building economic opportunities. We work on affordable housing with our partner Habitat for Humanity, and we have a program focused on substance abuse. But we are probably best known for our education programs. And let me just change the slide here in a minute. If that's not working here for some reason. There we go.
There you go.
There we go. So we're best known probably for our education programs that are all about closing that opportunity gap for kids. And those programs are Minnesota Reading Corps and Minnesota Math Corps. And you can kind of see the extent of our work. We work with thousands of kiddos from pre-K to eighth grade in that area. And we're partnering with schools specifically to bring those struggling students who are in the classroom, to bring them up to grade level in reading and math by improving not only their skills, but also their confidence as students, and send them on a trajectory towards success. We are unique in that our program combines the people power of AmeriCorps with the science of how students learn. So we are very much evidence-based and data-driven in the interventions that we're providing, and we are getting results for our kiddos. So you can see here, particularly when we look at the group of students that we serve, primarily students of color, English language learners, or students who are, lower income. We had an independent study done that showed that the reading gains for those kids that we serve, we work one-on-one with, is similar to getting an extra half to a full year of school compared to their peers. And then, as you can see, the students of color, English language learners, are achieving equal to or better than their peers. And then in math, we're getting some really similar results where students are 2 times more likely to achieve and reach math benchmarks than their peers. So again, we are having an impact and really working with kiddos one-on-one. With caring adults who serve as tutors, in this case in the schools. However, this year, obviously everything moved online in our work, but we realized as well that that families and kids and the schools were all just struggling with distance learning. We all know gaps are growing wider for many of our kids. And so given that, we made the decision to take our proven practices in Reading Corps and Math Corps and really roll those into a new program that is free, it's virtual, and it provides one-on-one experiences for families that need that extra support. And we're doing that by bringing that into the home of kids and families. So Dean can walk us through the program and how it works. So I'll move it over to Dean.
Yes, thank you. So as Donna indicated, we're taking those same interventions that have been so successful delivering one-on-one in schools, and we're making them available to families, to parents and their kids. And we just started that in November. So it is brand new. And as Donna said, we're providing the free tutoring for Minnesota students, pre-K through 8th grade, who need extra support in reading and math in the process. And since we opened this in the beginning of November, we've got over 500 families who have raised their hand and said, we'd love to take advantage of this program. There's just, if you want to advance the slide, Donna. So families actually come online, and this is how it works. Families come online, they fill in a really simple request form. I think there's about 5 or 6 pieces of information that need to be inputted online. And then once that request goes in, the families will have a short screening to make sure the children who need the boost will be matched with a tutor for ongoing tutoring. So that screening is critical, so we know where to place them in the interventions themselves, and then how they team them up with a tutor to work with them. These sessions are usually about 20 minutes long. Frequency typically has been as much as every day, depending on the needs and the schedule of the children receiving those interventions. So a couple of things to know. I just want to be really clear on what the tutor will provide and what tutors don't provide. So tutors, just like we're doing in the classroom, we provide extra practice and skill building using time-tested and effective interventions that Donna talked about, the research behind them. And we use a prescribed collection of evidence-based activities that we present to those kids. It will be, screen to screen. This will all be done, excuse me, online. These tutors, what they don't provide is general homework assistance. That's not something they're trained to do. We train these AmeriCorps folks in how to deliver these prescribed evidence-based activities. And so they stay pretty true to those. And then we help manage a student's distance. Helping students manage distance learning is also another thing the tutors won't be equipped to do, of helping them with technology or other needs that they might have. So we have kind of a limited time to train them, so we keep them pretty focused on the activities that we know will indeed work. So one thing I do want to emphasize, so here's where families go. It's just scholarsquad.org. They go there, and as I said, the application process is really pretty easy. And one of the important reasons we wanted to be here with you today is that we want to make sure that we're reaching families who really need the support first. This is free, and we're not going to turn anyone away. So our outreach has been to organizations like your organization and others like your organization, so we can let you in on it early. It will be a limited resource. We'll have so many tutors who can handle so many kids, and once those workloads are established, then we'll have to put people on a waiting list if it gets to be that case. So we haven't put this out to the general population as far as advertising or issuing any kind of a press release, because we first wanted to reach out to organizations like yours so that your families know first, so that they can be the first to go and apply for the services. We do have a toolkit for community partners that's available, and you can see the address there, so that you can use those tools to post on websites or to include in newsletters or e-newsletters to let your families know about this service, so that they can be served first and get their name in queue, so that we can do the assessment and get their students serving right now. So of those 500 families, we have over 100 students who are actively now being tutored, who have gone through the assessment process, who've been placed with a tutor, and we'll be hiring some more tutors in January. Right now we've got about 50 tutors who are dedicated to this work, but we're adding more in January because the response has been quite positive, as we did anticipate that it would be, since so many parents are now having to play the role of teacher and parent. Don, I don't know if you have anything to add around Scholar Squad itself.
Yeah, no, that's true. So if there are folks who are interested in serving as tutors, and we call them AmeriCorps members, there is still time. That deadline for filling out an application is all online, very easy, but the deadline is Friday, December the 18th. So there's still a little time if people are interested, or if people are just interested in learning more about the work that we do and serving in various community capacities, whether that's as a tutor, maybe it's with Scholar Squad, but maybe it's with our school programs. Hopefully by fall of 2021, we'll be back in the classroom. So we're going to need more folks to be serving one-on-one with students at that time. We also have programming that, like some of our environmental programs, are a great opportunity for some folks, and those start in the summer. So there's always ongoing opportunities to serve. And so this just kind of points out the fact that, as during these sort of shaky economic times, people are maybe either trying to start out their careers, or trying to figure out, young folks 18 and older, trying to figure out, what do I want to do after high school? Or if you're an older person who's in a transition for career, we are maybe a good fit for some folks like that. So help in gaining, resume building experience. Right now, most of our work, of course, is virtual because of COVID. But folks get paid every 2 weeks. It is a stipend. So, however, there is some money involved every 2 weeks. And then folks can earn money for tuition or for student loans. And if you are at a certain age and you want to serve and you're 55, 50 or over, or you have grandkids or kids, you can gift those education tuition loans to your kids or grandkids. And so we have a link here in the slide. These are hot links. So Al, I'll send you some of these links as well. That maybe you can share with folks, about serving as a tutor and then just learning about our other AmeriCorps programs. So
Well,
Donna
and Dean, this is phenomenal. Thank you so much. I have questions. As you're speaking, I'm wondering who is the ideal tutor? Some people probably could be tutors that don't see themselves as tutors because they're not teachers or accredited. So give me an idea of what I heard you say is that you might be out of high school or you might be retired. So that's just a broad range of skills, capabilities, experience. So go into that, because let's sort of give people a picture where they can see themselves serving this magnificent work.
It's a really great question. As Donna indicated, this is a federal program. So you have to have a high school diploma or GED. That's a requirement. But our tutors range from high school graduates who don't know exactly what they want to do next, to college graduates who don't know what they want to do next, to folks who are re-entering the workforce and want to get some valuable experience, to those folks that may look a little bit more like me, who are in an encore sort of situation where their career, they've chosen retirement, but they would like to stay active. So we've got all of those folks you would see currently serving. And in fact, this opportunity, because you do it from the comfort of your home, we've had a pretty big increase in interest because you don't have to leave home to serve. You'll be assigned a workload of students, probably somewhere around 12 to 17 students that you will work with. You'll get them to grade level. You don't have to have any kind of experience teaching. We do all of the training and ongoing support. You have someone from the staff that trains you and checks in with you often to make sure things are working well for you and for the students you're supporting. So you don't have to have a background in education or in tutoring. If you like kids and you want to help kids close this gap, then that's who we're looking for. Donna, I don't know if you want to add on.
No, that's exactly right. And we are basically looking for folks who are passionate about their communities, about giving back, and the beauty is, as well, is if people are curious about what's it like to be a teacher, do I think I want to teach, or I think I want to be, a para in schools, and we're talking right now just about our school-based program, our school programs with reading and math, but we also offer, there's a lot of opportunities for doing environmental work. If people are interested in, I really want to help my community and ensure that, we have very sustainable practices in our community. We also have a program for folks where we work with folks who are dealing with substance abuse disorder, and they just come out of treatment, and we work with them to help keep them on track to their next step on their journey. So there's lots of different options. If people are interested in sort of dipping your toe and understanding what it's like to work in a school, this is a great opportunity to do that. And many of our folks who are in the schools and really in all of our programs, they are essentially, well, you don't have to necessarily have that experience. And like Dean said, we provide the training and the coaching, but they are essentially an additional staff member for that school. And so you really do become a cohesive part of a team at the school, or, if you're, say, working with Habitat for Humanity, which helps us, we work with them on affordable housing and so forth. you really are part of that team for the organizations that we partner with.
What kind of time commitment? I heard you say, Dean, you assign a volunteer or a what's the right word for describing them? A colleague or a
Member.
A what?
We call them a member or a
A
tutor.
member. That was word member.
Yeah.
So what's the time involvement, the range of opportunities? Because I did hear you say you assigned 12 kids or 12 learners.
If they were full-time, yeah.
Okay.
So we have both part-time and full-time opportunities available.
Okay.
And full-time is like a typical workday.
Mhm.
Although what we're finding with Scholar Squad, we're finding some hours need to be adjusted because some of our families need the services in the evening to meet the needs of when their kids are actually needing that kind of support. But there's both part-time and full-time opportunities. And of course, the dollars that you earn are tied to either, part-time, you don't make quite as much and the education award is smaller. And the other thing that's important to note, if you're full-time as a tutor, you also can get health benefits. So that can be very helpful, especially in these times. So it's just good to know that that's another benefit that's available there.
And I would say that part-time, just to put it, part-time starts at 18 hours for us.
And full-time is actually 40 hours roughly, or close to that, 38 hours.
35, I think it is.
Yeah, I think it's 35. Yeah.
Right. And Diana wanted to ask, you can ask the Diane age limits. What questions did you have?
Age limits? No, like Dean said, you have to be.
And what are the evening hours?
Oh, well,
Limited,
they're not.
okay.
That's a good question, Diana. They're not preset. If they're working in Scholar Squad, you negotiate your tutoring time with your family. So we don't dictate that. We connect you to a family, and then it's between you and that family of when you're going to be delivering the interventions. And if you don't want to do evening, you explain to the family, that's not going to work into my schedule. What time? I need 20 minutes. We hope if it's full time, 20 minutes, probably at least 4 days a week. That our interventions need to be pretty frequently delivered if we need that consistency. To get the kids to grade level. So it's family. Yes, Diana.
And then is there an age limit for the tutor with regards to how old they could be?
18, and then there's not a ceiling. We have folks in their 70s and their 80s who are doing this. And the nice thing now with Scholar Squad is if you are one of those folks that go away for the winter, you can take this work with you, right? Because it's all delivered screen to screen. So if you're planning to be gone for the month of January, you'd take your kids with you and tutor them while you're in Arizona or Florida, if you're lucky enough to
Sitting on the beach in Jamaica, right?
Yeah, that's right.
That's
the one upside of all of this.
Well, I was thinking, Donna and Dean, how I know a lot of people go to work at places like Starbucks, and it's not because they love making coffee, but they don't mind it, obviously. And it's not because it's a high-paying job, but it does pay well. But they intentionally go because of that insurance benefit, health insurance benefits. And that is huge because it's so important. And it's even doubly important now that people have access to benefits. When you say that people who work become members, have access to health insurance, I think that's just absolutely phenomenal. So you got 500 families right now. How many members does it take to accommodate that many families? And that many you have already without rolling this thing out publicly yet. What are you looking for? What's going to happen in the next quarter, for example? What do you imagine?
That's a really great question. We'd receive both federal and state dollars to make this work, as well as some private funds. And we have committed to the state legislature that we will tutor 30,000 kids this year,
Wow.
between what we're doing in schools and what we're doing with families. So so we need to reach that number. We're not there yet. And so we need to do some aggressive growth in December and January. Right now, those 500 families would be served by I think it's 42 members who are serving those 500 families, because the ratio is right now, those 42 are all full-time, and they can have a workload of anywhere between 12 and 17 kids. So that's kind of the ratio. Now, kids come in and out. I mean, when I say in and out, when kids get to grade level, we graduate them and bring in a new kid, right? So the length of service that they're serving each family depends on how far behind the child is and how quickly we can get them to grade level in reading and math. So they're serving anywhere from 12 to 17 kids at one time, but over the course of the year, they may serve upwards to 40 or 50 kids, because once they're grade level, we say, bring us another child, because we usually have children waiting to get in. Right. And I'm sure as word gets out, this will become even more of a demand, because as we've indicated, it is a free service to families, and we don't turn anybody away. Now, we have turned some folks away because when we assessed the child, we didn't feel as though they were behind. And so we don't want to spend our time with kids who aren't in high need of needing these services, right? So based on that assessment that we deliver, we determine if indeed this child is a good candidate for the interventions. And when we say behind, we're looking at kids that are 1, 2, or 3 grade levels behind, right? So that's how we select those children. So when we talk about need, it's educational need. That's what we're focused on.
And then it's also, we are not serving those kids who may be in special ed, as you can imagine, if they are really low. But it's typically in our programs, it's the kids who are in the classroom, and we kind of describe it, they're in the bubble. They're in the classroom, but they're just not quite getting it and not quite there at grade level. And those are the kids that are most in need and that we can work with and really been effective in bringing them up to grade level.
And one thing we are noticing with remote learning is that an early reader or a pre-reader is really struggling with classes being delivered remotely. Learning to read is a pretty interesting process. And for those non-readers, trying to learn to read over the computer has really been a challenge for them. And we're finding those kids really need extra support. And that's really a center of that's our sweet spot. So
I was doing some quick math in my head on a scratch pad here. And if you're looking to serve 30,000 kids in the course of your contract year, and you've got 42 right now serving the 500 families or so, I'm multiplying it out. So you're looking for around 300 people or so. Does that sound right? As a ballpark?
Yeah, that's probably about right.
And we should clarify too that some of those 30,000 will be through the schools, but it'll still be remote. But some of those 30,000, they're not all through.
I would say the majority are probably in through servicing schools. That's what we're anticipating, because even though schools are remote, they have tutors we have tutors assigned to the schools that are delivering these services to those kids in addition. So just because a school has decided to do 100%, they were hybrid, now they're 100%, they have tutors assigned to the school that are delivering these services through the school commitment. So we still have our regular services going on. In addition, the difference here is that a parent doesn't. If I had children in this age group, I would not have to have reading core in my school in order to receive these services. We're letting parents go direct, whether or not their school participates or not. They can go direct and receive these services. They don't have to have their children in a school that's receiving reading core in order to use these services. So that's what's really new and different here. We've never gone direct to families before. So this is really very new and exciting for us.
Diana, Andrew, each of us, any questions or comments?
I do. Thank you so much, Al. I have a question. So I noticed that you guys said that the students will have to be basically severely in the red. They will have to be in the red and not in the yellow to get the support. Is that correct? The red is like, because the red,
we
because
take
it's red,
kids
yellow, green.
We take kids in the yellow.
Okay.
We take kids in the yellow. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I didn't want you to think they have to be severely behind. No, if they're in the yellow, in fact, we are probably more successful with yellow kids than red kids.
Okay.
But
Then
we take both.
I wanted to ask another question, considering that we are in distance learning in Minneapolis, and majority of Northside schools had a high number of Black males in those school buildings. And so I was wondering about those having the opportunity for that support staff to continue to support the students in the online setting, because my son was at Laney and he had a math core person come in when he was in school in the building, and he had a lot of other Black men. So I was also wondering, what is the requirement, for to become a member? Do you have to, is it felony friendly? Is it for like our men and women who might be coming home who want to give back? Considering where we at right now with crime, and we know that education and crime go hand in hand. So I had a question about that. And then one more, and I'm gonna let you answer, Donna, which was, how do we tap into the our disabled community here? Minnesota has a high number of autistic children, right? And a lot of them have graduated from high school. So how do we tap into that community so that they can be a part of reading course to support the younger students who also might have that learning style?
Great questions.
Yeah, I think it is a great question about tapping into the disabled students. Right now, we're not working with them if they're at a certain level. But it's a great opportunity for us to figure that out. And I'm sorry, can you repeat the first question?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you. So just want to let you know, the U of M, they have a nice program for autistic children who are in that college level, and also formerly MCTC, which is now what I think just technical college. So they're trying to figure out a way how to, because they learn in a different way. So just a little tidbit. Also, I was wondering about the how do we get is it felony friendly? Is Minnesota Serve felony friendly? And I know that they're working with children and young adults and students and things like that. So if they don't have a crime that's associated with a child, is it some way for our community members to come back in and re-entry into our community that way?
Yeah, that is a great question. And that's, people would tend to think that's a barrier, but it's not. And of course, because they are working with a vulnerable population of kids, it does depend on, whatever your offense was. So certain things you can't, certain obviously felonies you can't serve, but other misdemeanor and other, if people have a record, we take that into consideration, but it is not a barrier to service. It is not. And one of the things that we've been trying to do, like most organizations, and it's not just this year, since everything are reckoning with everything, but we have really been looking at how do we diversify our programs so that we have more BIPOC tutors and members serving, and then really just expanding the diversity beyond that too. So again, we look at partnering with other organizations where perhaps, folks are coming out of criminal justice system, but, they're ready to serve, they're ready to move into, careers. And so we are working with those folks as well, and they can serve. So we are really trying to knock down any barriers, the barriers that exist that are reasonable. So that is a great question. And yes, if somebody has a background, criminal background, depending on what it is, and we do that assessment, but they are eligible to serve as anyone else is.
Yeah,
as
I would just,
eligible to serve as anyone else.
That's right, Donna. I would just add that, we also have an organization called Recovery Corps, and we have about 50 people who are, and Donna mentioned this before, who are helping folks stay in recovery after they've left treatment. And 95% of those folks are in recovery themselves. And so someone who has had a bout with addictive behavior typically has a record. And so we have to be forgiving, and because our Recovery Corps members are more effective if they're actually in recovery, because they can be more empathetic and compassionate to their folks that they're serving. So that's just a really good example of we do a background check, but we can be forgiving, and we defend our decisions to the federal office so that we can find the right people to be serving, right? So that's a really great question.
Well, it sounds like you've identified special needs and ways to integrate people with experiences, but who have a desire to serve. And I'm presuming the same kind of connectivity applies in your environmental work. I mean, how does a person who sees himself or herself as concerned about the environment and who is mission driven find their way into the opportunity to serve in your program? And I would equate that with the same need that you're serving in reintegrating people that have substance abuse experiences, who want to straighten their life out, of you, as you've described, Dean, and who by serving also serve themselves, because it keeps them focused on their healing and they're able to share. And I think that, Donna, you're saying that the same principles, given considerations and reasonableness and the protocols, applies to people who've had experiences in the criminal justice system. You're creating pathways for reintegration and re-engagement, and I think that's phenomenal. How does that work in the environmental space? Because I think that's critically important as well. Who typically is an environmental worker?
Yeah, and it's the same really focus and area. So we have 3 environmental programs. One, and Dean's working specifically in this area because we are actually trying to expand the work that we do on that front. But we just launched in the fall a forestry program, and a lot of it is urban forestry, to just ensure that we have much more many more trees in our communities and neighborhoods and so forth. We also have a program called Green Corps that where we partner with and working on just ensuring sustainability of our natural areas and so forth. And we have another, Dean, the other program is I'm sorry, I'm blanking out. Green Corps, Green Corps, the Urban Forestry.
Conservation Corps.
Conservation Corps, thanks. And that is through the state of Minnesota that we work with that program. So there are 3 opportunities and areas for folks who have a passion around that to get involved in that area. But again, we are, when we look for members, we're recruiting broadly for people who are passionate about that work, because that's where the success comes, for the member and for the organization, and then of course ultimately for the community. If somebody is passionate about that field and that area, we are open and hope that they are participating in those programs.
Yeah, the other thing I'd like to mention, I've been in contact with colleges of social work, mm-hmm. And many colleges of social work have what they call a practicum, where they have to go out and serve in a role to receive their college credit and work toward their degree. In the universities that I've spoken with so far, they're seeing this service opportunity qualifying for their practicum. So it's really, and what they're thrilled about is typically, and I got my undergrad in education, and I had to pay to student teach, which is like I had to pay to work instead of the other way around. And so the couple of colleges that I've spoken with about this opportunity see it as a real win-win, because they could do their practicum and make enough money to pay the tuition back that they would ordinarily have to pay to do that practicum. So it really is it can be a really nice win-win situation.
Let me ask about the demographics on both sides of the equation. You mentioned 500 families so far, and that's focusing on your tutoring, mentoring learners, school children, and what's the demographic profile of those learners? I'm presuming, and I could be wrong, two things you've told me, your statewide program, but I'm presuming that the area that shows up, that at least we read about all the time, is the disparity in education and grade level attainment in urban schools, and particularly the experience of Black and Brown, African American and Latino students being testing behind grade level. So that's one question. Are you reaching the numbers you want in those families, those populations, demographics? Second side is, are you also reaching the diverse pool that you want to explore and engage on the member side?
So I would say that, generally, for all, and so one thing with Scholar Squad, we're working on those demographics because we just started and we don't have yet, but because we are very much, data driven, we will have more information and details on that. We don't have it yet. We just started in November. But in general, for our programs, we're seeing about 78% of the kids that we serve are kids of color or low income. And then for as far as our members, it's more like around 38%. So again, we realize that, that's okay, but we need to do better. We really want to make sure that, especially in our school programs and when we're serving young kids, that they see themselves reflected in the folks who are there for them as tutors. And so we started a year ago an advisory panel to help us specifically as an organization. And it's an advisory panel of community leaders and so forth that are working to help us specifically diversify our members, our member core, as well as ensure that we retain our members, because, of course, retention is also a part of the equation. So we have been working with them on strategies that work best. Again, a lot of that focus we've had in the last year, and that we'll start to implement in 2021, is breaking down the barriers. What are the barriers to folks for serving? And sometimes, as we all know, it's small things. Perhaps it is background check fees, fees for background checks and that sort of thing. Or how do we walk people through the application if they need that additional help? So we're really trying to look at how do we break down barriers for some folks some of our Islamic brothers and sisters, have different sort of requirements because of their religion. And we're really trying to make sure that we are, our programs don't prevent them from leaving or not applying. We want to make sure that we are as inclusive as we can be and as accommodating as we can be. And we are working on that.
I would just add to the first part of that with the families that we're recruiting. We're working closely with organizations like the Northside Achievement Zone, who are identifying specific families, and they're bringing us what they're calling batches every week, another batch of families that they are saying, these are the families that need the services. So that's been really helpful to have organizations like you're all to say, here are the families, if you bring us the families, we'll make sure that there's an outreach to those families. And so, to make sure that we're getting to the right kids. And that's another reason we wanted to be with you today, to let you know, however we can help, because you know who the families are probably that need this kind of support. So you can bring them to us and we'll make sure that they get into this assessment process.
Well, this is really fantastic. I'm thanking you so much. Andrew, Diana, Ethropic, any other questions or comments?
No, I don't have any. This was great. This was very informative, and I'm looking forward to helping in any way that we can with regards to getting this message out for you guys.
And the same is true for Insight News, Donna and Dean. We think this is critical work. It's important work, and more important now than ever. I should ask you, I think you've referenced it already, but is there a COVID-19 specific initiative in your work right now? I know that all of us are infected and all of us are pivoting to maintain our intent to be of service and to execute our strategies for community building, serving families. But have you had to create a specific COVID-19 strategy to do your work?
Yes, we have. So like everybody else, and I hate to use the word pivot now because it's so cliche, but we have in all of our programming and all of our programs have done that to ensure that we're social, distance and so forth, and practicing, just, the best practices and social distancing and so forth. So we have done that. We're virtual. Our programs last spring moved not only online, but we had our tutors doing different work because, everybody was trying to figure out classroom stuff. So our tutors were helping schools still, working with schools, but helping them if for instance, delivering meals or food to families, because we know that became a critical issue, or whether it was, delivering supplies, school supplies and so forth, whatever the ways the schools needed assistance. Our tutors were there again as an additional staff member to help them carry out what the needs were at that time. And then we did also, again, in response to all of this, just what we were going through with COVID, especially in the spring, we launched in the summer, and now it continues, an emergency response program where we deployed about 250 additional members who were working specifically on the front lines to deal with COVID, the aftermath of George Floyd. So, organizations like Pillsbury United were seeing an increase in demand for food. So following George Floyd, so we have members there helping with the food distribution. We also work with the counties, and Dean can speak directly to this, to help folks with housing, people who are experiencing homelessness. We're working on the front lines in that area. And Dean, maybe you want to talk a little bit more in detail about that program, but wherever we were needed and wherever the help was that organizations identified, we partnered with them and provided members to work on those front lines.
Yeah, both Hennepin and Ramsey County, I think we had over 100 members between those two counties of helping to move homeless folks into empty hotel space and then provide services to those homeless folks to keep them from contracting the virus. And we had to be real strict around PPE training and all of that for our members so that they would be safe as well. And we are also planning on doing another summer program like that one for nonprofits who are in need of some additional support this next summer. So you'll be hearing more about that. As Donna said, we opened up about 250 slots last summer for that purpose. So we're planning. We don't know how many slots yet. We have to do an assessment and see what we can do this next year, but we'll have a similar, I think we'll have a similar program that will be for summer support.
One final shout out, I'd just like to say and ask that if there are organizations or others we should be partnering with, please let us know. We are always open to that. As you know, our services are expanding and are changing and so forth. So we would love invitations to partner with other organizations in the work that we're doing on all fronts.
You should give people your contact information, either the phone number or the email address, so they can reach you.
Sure, happy to do that. Should I leave that in the chat? Would you like me to do
Leave
that?
it in the chat, but also say it, because somebody maybe is watching.
Sure,
right now, they can write
happy
it
to.
down.
So yeah, and it's very easy. My email is Donna, DONNA, at serveminnesota.org. So it's DONNA at SERVEMINNESOTA.org.
Okay, thank you so much. Don, do you have any announcements? You or Andrew or Etropic have announcements that you want to make? So
if I could just say one quick thing out. Today in Hennepin County is I think it is actually the last day for one of Hennepin County's programs that provides either mortgage assistance or rental assistance. So if you're struggling with that, please be sure to go to Hennepin County's website. We also have some links on our own page, but you can bypass that and just go to Hennepin County. But also if you're looking for ways to, if you have needs at your home or your residence and you need financial assistance, we have lots of programs for that at Hawthorne. So please just jump on our website or get in contact with us. Lots of money available to help people make sure that they're living in safe conditions, especially as we all spend more time at home now.
Great, thank you for that information. Well, listen, this has been a wonderful program. Special thanks to you, Donna Svensson, and to you, Dean Keppert, and for the work that you do with Serve Minnesota, part of the AmeriCorps initiative nationwide, and critical, important work. Thank you for being here, for explaining it, and for inviting our listeners, viewers, and community to engage and support this work and benefit from the work as well. And we're doing this every day, 5 days a week, talking to different organizations and community members around building community. The conversations with Al McFarlane from 1 to 2, 5 days a week on YouTube and on Facebook. We've added a special 12 o'clock program for the month of December. In December, we've got a contract to interview and promote agencies that are specifically working with dealing with COVID-19. So we want to lift them up because there are a lot of people doing a lot of great work, and the key is to make sure that work is available, known, accessible, and people benefit from these assets, these resources in communities. So tune in at noon for the COVID-19 town hall, and then 1 o'clock every day for the conversations with Al McFarlane. Tomorrow, the program is also simulcast or broadcast on KFAI. And as it turns out, we have a special program tomorrow. We'll be broadcasting live to radio from 1 o'clock to 4 o'clock, and also streaming that live on Facebook and on YouTube. So a lot of great stuff, a lot of great time to be connected. And we are pleased that you're part of this wherever you are on YouTube, on Facebook, and in community.